things to what know and I mean, attractive things in agriculture, we are going for the other part. So briefly, this is the agriculture landscape that we have in the country. And this might be very familiar to you, like this is the technology infrastructure that is there or that will be there in the coming 5 to 6 years or so, or in the decade or so. So you could see all the Indian villages will be connected with paved roads, the accessibility being very improved in terms of infrastructure and technology so that the technology can be connected. And you could see the electricity, the reliability of electricity and the accessibility of electric goods, I mean, the devices and everything that has been equipped in order to meet the technology and other infrastructures. Internet, we are among the country, India is among the cheapest, I mean, countries for internet. Like the per GB cost in the internet is very low in this part of the region. So the internet will be much more cheaper. It's what the reports and other analysis is saying. And the other thing is, since we are currently in the 4G is currently outdated, 5G is coming around. There are a lot of researchers going in 5G and its implementation in, say, in IIT Madras and other research institutions in the country. And 6G will automatically arrive in this decade or so. So its advancement on the other benefits and privileges that these technologies give to not only to agriculture but also all other allied as well as other services in the society. And you could see AI. AI is quite common and it is quite related to us also. I mean, we're also using that. And AI will near human intelligence is just a saying. I'm not honestly, to be very honestly, I'm not a believer of AI being near human intelligence. But this is just a saying that it will near human intelligence, and technology will what advance to such an extent that it can what replace all other human operations that is being carrying that are being carried out in the society. And data, you might be knowing, like data is a current oil, as far as us technologists as well as other engineers are concerned, and almost all people are concerned. So a majority of enterprise data globally will be stored on the cloud, and almost every data that is associated with our daily lives will be on cloud and will be accessible to most of the players and stakeholders in the system. So this thing is quite common, and I mean this thing is quite familiar, to be very specific, like to you. Like this is the current scenario that we are in, and the agriculture thing that is the major saying and all. So with this thing, the other thing I'm trying to bring across to you is agri-tech, which is technology in agriculture. So the agri-tech framework is what we need to look around. Like so, this you could see for yourself as a this part, the middle part is the agriculture operations that is being carried out by the farmers day in and day out. Okay, across value chain, starting from the seeding till it's onto the market. So that particular area, from the input side or giving farmers the farmers giving the farmland or plowing the farmland and giving the seeds, etc., is known as the upstream sector. And the other area, wherein the other end, wherein it is reach out to the farmers, I mean, reach out to the consumers as final produce, is known as the downstream. So you could see a lot of processes and things going around, and these are the areas wherein technology could impact the processes. So initially, the input supply, wherein there are a lot of seeds, planting materials, mother plants, then credit system is there. So every input supply, for that we need agriculture finance and technology. So this is the agriculture technology frame that is being developed for meeting the need of input supply. So you could also see agriculture biotechnology materials or ventures doing that. So it all comes around the input area. And sorry, and after that we have pre-production, wherein after sourcing all these input, what we need or what are the things that need to be taken care of just before the production or just before getting onto the farmland. So for that, you could see supply chain technologies. Like in order to source that things, we need a lot of technologies and all. So technologies can interfere and intervene in this area. So then you could see production. So in the production area, you could see a lot of technology players or technology aspects that has been introduced. And there is post harvest, after production, just after production, just after producing the farmer, just after harvesting the produce, you could see a lot of technologies that need to be taken care of, such as warehousing and logistics. You need to store these things, store these final produce that the farmer cultivated, and you require a lot of technology in that, addressing that sort of the area, such as warehousing, logistics, etc. And at the end, you could see a trading, and after that, wholesale, etc. All these marketing thing that the farmer, after the farmer, that is taken care of by the so-called middlemen in our language, and which will be transversed and what delivered to the consumers and consumers, such as us, through the other technologies. So you could see in each processes or operations of the carried out by the farmers and throughout the agriculture chain, there are a lot of technologies that is involved in enhancing these processes. The thing that I missed out is precision and digital agriculture technology, which I will be in most of my in this session I'll be addressing. So this will mostly come under the production area, where the productivity, as well as the to be very specific, the traceability of the thing could be addressed. So for all these operations, we need these technology, and for all these technology, and to provide the farmers all these insights and services, we require the services and the ample support of these three players: the incubators and accelerators, which supports the ventures or companies like us to how to market and how to deliver these services to the farmers, and of course monetary support, ample monetary support provided by these players, and monetary support on a much larger scale, the investors and donors, and then the regulation and policies, which is what outlined by the government. So with these supporting system, we could intervene in these agriculture operations with these technologies. So this is the agri technology framework that I want to convey to you. Like, this is the framework that we are in, and I will be mostly talking about the production side, to be very honest, like to be very specific, since we are mostly in that domain. So this is the agri technology or agri tech framework, and I just wanted you to know currently what is the segment that we are in, the Indian agri tech segment. What is the background? So you could see there are a lot of, like, there are around as I'm informed, there are around 450 to 500 odd startups in agri tech coming every year in India. So that's a figure that I've got, and this is very nascent figure. Like 1,000 plus agri tech startups are there, and you could see only a penetration of 1%, which clearly indicates that the opportunities are massive and huge. So you could see from this figure, like the pain points or the problems related to the agriculture, especially farmers and farming, and the agri-tech segment corresponding to that, and the market potential in US dollars. So you could see the input, volatility, input market, the market linkages in terms of farm inputs that the farmer needs. The market value of this is what I'm talking is about the Indian context. India alone has a market potential, market linkages potential for the farm input potential is about 1.7 billion. Okay, and limited access, for example, the precision agriculture and farm management, for that segment, market potential is 3.4 billion. Quality management and traceability across the value chain, like from where this produce is going around and who cultivated it on, all these traceability thing, thus the potential is like 3 billion. Supply chain and output market linkages, connecting farmers and consumers, or connecting farmers and buyers directly, is worth around 12 billion US dollars. financial services for farmers. So you could see for yourself, although there are a lot of, as you might be knowing regarding the edtech segment or the educational technology, or how it has enhanced and it has advanced in the 1 to 2 years in this COVID era, it has been massive. You could see in Kerala alone, like in the earlier days, in 2 to 3 years before, Byju's was the lone player. As I worked with them, like Byju's was the lone player in Kerala. I could see in Kannur, as we are from Kannur, in Kannur around alone, there are 5 to 6 established edtech companies catering around massive audiences. So, like educational technology, agri-tech is booming like anything. And you might be also be knowing that during the lockdown period, when all the other sectors were down, agri-tech alone contributed to the cause of GDP. I mean, as far as India and as far as Kerala is concerned, everything was like agriculture. So this COVID thing has got going agri-tech like anything, and although as I mentioned, there are a lot of players coming in, especially in India, in very large amounts. The technology penetration is very less, like 1%. I mean, the penetration is very less owing to technology, other areas and all. So what I'm trying to convey to you is like the opportunities in agriculture technology is very huge, and it has starting from independence, like 70 to 80 years around, um, till now, when you are just having a background of agri, how the farmers are being benefited. With these 7 to 8 decades, only 10 to 15% of farmers have been addressed. So there's a lot of opportunities in addressing 80 to 85% of farmers. That's what I'm trying to get. So this is the agri-tech landscape that we are in. Although there are a lot of players, still we have a scope of solving for the need of the farmers. So this is regarding the background of agri-tech, and this is what we do. This is This is what it is in the agriculture technology area in the country. So I'll have a break here. I just wanted to know if anyone is having any questions regarding what I mentioned. Anyone? I could put it in your in the chat as well.
Sir,
Yeah.
so you just said that only 10 to 15% of the the farmers have we have been able to impact due to this.
Mm.
So is that the reason why we are not able to do with the rest? Is that because of the cost limitation, expense limitation, or what is the reason behind that? Why we are not able to tap into the rest?
Like the reasons are plenty, to be honest. From our learning, the reasons are plenty. But what you mentioned is one of the reasons. But the core reason is India is having a really, really diverse demographic conditions. And each and every area, or even in each and every state, is having its own farming backgrounds and farmers, which is completely different. And I just wanted to quote one thing that we experienced, like during our journey. Um, we got to know about a lot of investors and all. So one of the investors just shared to us, like, solving for the question that they asked us is like, are you solving for Bharat or India, or are you solving for the globe? So what we answered honestly was, we are solving for Kerala. So what he told is like, what he shared is like, solving for Kerala alone is solving for is like solving for other countries. India alone is having a lot of diversity and other various aspects of parameters to account for, to take for, and each and every region require a solution which is completely tailored for them. There is no general solution as far as agriculture or agri-tech is concerned. There is each and every region, each and every demography, and each and every farmer. Farmer in the sense, farming background requires different solutions. Although the pain points remains exactly the same, but the solution need to be tailored likewise. So number one factor for this major reason is the variation in the customer segment and the background to solve for. So you have to pick your focus area. So for that question, I'll just share one thing. Like, our focus area was initially was only for pepper, black pepper. But currently we are handling crops, like although we are not completely on ground with these crops, but we are handling crops such as 10 to 15 varieties of crops are there in Kannur and Wayanad alone. So that's the first factor that needs to, or that influences the thing that you asked, the penetration and the amount of farmers. The second one is technology. Is always technology. So you all will be like familiar with Netflix, right? Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So what Netflix gives is complete a sort of recommendation, right? If you see a video, the other video will be completely with what dependent on the genre and the interest that we saw earlier. So the recommendation and the video quality. I personally prefer Netflix over Amazon, since Netflix is having a lot of data optimizations in terms of the quality of video it possesses. For Amazon and Netflix, if you're watching say, web series or anything on that, you could see that the streaming quality is very high, and even the data consumed for that is very less compared to Amazon Prime. So what I'm trying to put across is the technology that the Netflix team has developed in 2011 or so is a disruptive sort of a thing. So, and there are a lot of players in each era. There's a Netflix in this era. There was like these agri-tech companies has been there for the past 3 to 4 decades. But the advancement of technology is what has moved. And you can even take the case of COVID. Agtech investments, agri-tech investments, or the investors investing in agri-tech startup were like were very less, like less than 500 million or say 400, $300 million. But with this, that owing to very much adoption of technology by the farmers, digital technology by the farmers, the current investment in agri-tech is, or in agriculture is like around $5 to $10 billion. Okay, across the value chain. So technology has a greater role to play, and technology has been a great factor, a leveraging factor for that. So these are the two broader factors that contribute to the lesser amount of farmers reach out to the agri-tech. Just saw question. Wait. Then we need ground connections. Yeah, it's a very, I mean, value or valuable question. Like, good question to be very honest. Like, what in our journey as well, what we experienced is like there is a huge gap between farmers and other set of people who are telling that they are solving for farmers, or they are for farmers. I'm not what pointing or pinpointing any agencies and all, but there is a huge gap between farmers and the things that what they need. So we need a lot of, actually what we aspire at Deepflow, or what we aspire in our venture and in our subsidiary ventures, is like when we are solving for farmers, we should have an office at the farm, not in this or office spaces like this. So offices should be completely we are also trying to get that also in the long run. Offices should be always near to the farm or in the farm as well, so that you could get that connection going. And farmers is a type of customers wherein they won't easily reveal anything. That would be great. Like that would be nice. Like they won't. You could see a lot of, like there are a lot of businesses in which there are a lot of customers who are of various backgrounds. Like you could have vendors, or you could have other people, but these farmers are quite different. Farmers in general are quite different. They won't reveal anything. They won't easily reveal anything that is close to them. So you need to get that ground thing going. So that's the major reason that we have pivoted. I'll explain it in the coming slides. I'll explain it in detail how we equipped ourselves to deal with that. So you need, absolutely, you're right. Like you need a lot of ground interactions, and the solution should always come from the ground, rather than brainstorming and in these offices and all. So and I'm very to be very specific, all these agri-tech startups in the country are all the progressive agri-tech startups in the country are on ground with the farmers. Then only you will be able to get revenue and move forward. Farmers won't pay for the solutions that they don't want. What they want, if you want to know what they want, you have to be on ground. So that's the thing. Yeah, I'll explain it in later in the slides going around. Insecure in the sense, like, to be honest, what we did was we didn't reveal anything about what is deep flow and all in our initial interactions, or even during the interactions. We always wanted to be a helper to the farmer, rather than we are a venture, we are incubated here, we are incubated there, we are supported by these. We don't say that. What we tell to the farmer is like, we are engineering graduates with having a bit of knowledge about technology, and we want to solve for your pain points, and we need to know exactly what are the exact pain points that we need to solve for, and we'll deliver it to you. So that's the only talk that is going around with the farmer. So we won't tell. The reason is like, we are also wary about the thing regarding the insecurity and all. And as I mentioned earlier in my in the previous question regarding the extent to which the farmers share their experiences, how much we are what grounded, like the word suits for itself. On ground not only means we are physically on ground, we are grounded in our attitude as well. Like we don't know anything, we are just to solve for your cause. We have the technology with us, so we just need to know how it can be solved. So we have faced the insecurity thing, but the extent was very less. So what we did with the experience that we had, what we did was our introduction to the farmers was very less, and it has to do with a lot of collaborations that we established. We aren't here in this journey as a loner. We are supported by the agri extension institutions, the government, and all the other stakeholders apart from farmers. So since you are not alone solving, not solving for the farmer alone, we are solving for the complete agriculture thing, not the farmer. We are solving for the ecosystem that is going around him or her as well. So we will be able to reduce the insecurity that the farmer feel, and yeah, that's the thing that has been going. Any other? I think I've answered your question, Ravi. Any other questions, or should I move?
We can continue, sir.
Sure. Wait. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay, cool. So what we do at Deep Flow Technologies is provide a platform of assistance for these farmers that allows them to adopt proper crop and production management and assist them in improving the revenue aspects and the quality of their produce. So this is what we do, and we are in this journey. We are supported by IIM Bangalore and all these mentoring, management, these funding, etc. And our support, like what we did was like, in order to bridge the engineer, we are basically engineering graduates with little bit of knowledge, very less knowledge about agriculture, and no farming background as of now. And so what we did was we collaborated with agri extension and agri research institutions such as KVKs, and they are providing us agri training and consultancy. So, and we have Indian Agricultural Research Institute providing us prototyping support for the products that we have here at Deepflow. And we are currently we are having office spaces at MyZone in Kannur, which is incubation space sponsored by Kerala Startup Mission, or part of Kerala Startup Mission. So this is what we do, and this is our supporting institutions. So in coming say 30 to 40 minutes, what I'll do is I'll just explain what we are delivering for the farmers, and you could get a picture around how the technology has been evolved in our venture during the during our operations in solving for the farmer, so that you could relate to all the technologies that we here do, and how we are delivering it with respect to the needs and necessities of the farmer. Okay. So I'll just give the brief history of our venture. So we started in August 2019 with an idea for a robot that identifies the weeds that is growing around the plants, and eradicating or destroying them. So that was the idea with which we started our venture, and we got it. I mean, we got what was that? Yeah, Idea Day was there in Kerala Startup Mission, and we got the prototype and ideation fund from there. And the hard fact or the reality is like there are no farmers in the jury panel of any such competitions. So whether this technology or this solution is does the farmer need this kind of a solution is what we were thinking. So what we did was we visited a lot of farmers. We visited a farmer based in Wayanad, and we didn't discuss the idea that we had. What we did was we just interacted with him, got to know what was the pain point that he was facing, and what we could do about it. So in that instant or during that interaction, we completely was surprised and taken aback, and understood that these farmers, as I mentioned earlier, there is a huge gap between what the farmer needs and what we have with us, or what is the society having for them. So with their interactions, and from there on we started interacting a lot of people, farmers basically from different backgrounds. Small marginal farmers were there. Then there were middle and large farmers, and players such as fertilizers providers, and all those other stakeholders were also there. So we interacted with them, and from there and from that interaction, we got to know that we pivoted our complete solution model from robot, and we pivoted even the technology that we had, and are in the state that we are in right now. So the complete pivoting point was started from January 2020 during the interaction. The robot thing is currently going parallel, but we have twisted and pivoted our solution model with respect to the needs and necessity of the customers that we serve. So from there on, we started to do the proof of concept of our technology. And then, as I mentioned, we got the collaboration with KVK Kannur and other agriculture research institutions officialized, followed by this thing, the interaction with on-ground interaction with farmers has been carried out throughout. Like in these times as well, we'll be carrying out, we are carrying out that, so that the rapport and all those pain points are covered, and that checklist has been taken care of quite efficiently. So, the field study with the farmers is going around, and in January 2021, we signed an agreement with farmer producer. For those who might not know, farmer FPO is farmer producer organizations, which is a collective of farmers, which operates such as a private entity, and with farmers as shareholders, group of farmers as shareholders. So we signed an agreement with the FPO in Cherudayam Panchayat in Kannur, housing around 300 to 400 odd farmers as members. And currently, we are delivering not only for them, we are also delivering for other people. But these are the primary, the first agreement that we signed with the farmers. And then in later, we developed the product that we have, the MVP version or the beta version. And in May, we got incubated at NSRCell IIM Bangalore. And then in later, we developed the product. Like you could see for yourself, initial 1 year or 2 years, 1.5 years was complete ground interactions. So after that, we got this. Our product has been. We were in the product development phase, and during that phase, we also reached out to more farmers in the network with the I mean, the other we were quite taken aback with the channels that we chose during the I mean, you might be knowing, like in June we had to like we intended to launch our product in May and June, but we had to take a hard call since it was the second wave was hitting and the lockdown was happening, and we need to move to back to our houses, and most of our operations are completely physical in terms of we require a lot of work on ground rather than this calling and virtual interactions. So what we did with with the advisories that we received from the advisory board of our company, what we did was we reached out to the farmers through radio, which was a quite eye opener for us. Like we thought to reach out to the farmers through the online platforms, or even the calling or voice calling platforms at the normal call and all. But this radio thing was quite disruptive. Like we had an impact around reaching out to farmers with various other geographies that we even didn't think of, like southern parts of Kerala and all. We just wanted to reach to the farmers in North Malabar or northern part of Kerala. So that was an eye opener for us, reaching out to farmers through disruptive and old school conventional channels such as radio. And then we carried out the farm visits and all. And currently we are in the user testing phase, wherein the farmers is testing our product and giving us valuable insights and feedbacks around how to develop, how to what advance this technology, and these feedbacks are quite crucial in the area in which these farmers could buy and use the products. So currently we are in the user testing phase where we are developing, and in these times we are also like backed by a lot of projects and all. So this is the basic journey regarding our venture, and these are the pain points that we're solving for the farmers. So, inaccessibility of resources and technology that leads to crop health issues such as diseases and pest attacks that results in poor quality of produce and a diminishing yield. So, these are the pain points that we have identified with the continuous interactions with the farmers. So, this accounts for an unorganized farming to solve for. And these are not what pain points that is here today or yesterday. These pain points were there for the past 6 to 7 decades. So it hasn't been solved because of a lack of farmer-centric approach in solving for the root cause, and as I mentioned earlier, with very less technology penetration in this part of the region. And there are also a lot of challenges in around data acquisition, holistic analysis, and even seamless collaboration between farmers and experts. So these are the pain points that we are solving, and this is the solution model that we have with us to solve for the farmers. So you could see for yourself, here is a AI recommendation engine which forms the crux or the core of our solution model. And what we do is we keep systematic farm visits from our end to the farmers. Like we will be visiting to the farmers in our network twice or thrice a week, and we will be collecting a lot of data from the farmers, wherein we will be collecting a lot of data with respect to his farm. So all these on-ground data will be sourced from the farmers, and we have collaborations with these satellite agencies and other government agencies, wherein we will be getting a lot of data on satellite monitoring and all those things. And these data, satellite monitoring data, and the deep learning algorithm or the thing that we process, all these things will be taken account to the AI recommendation engine. And with this data, we will be delivering day-to-day recommendations to the farmers through the personalized mobile application that we have. And all these, in order to get all these things going, we have a dedicated web app and a dedicated software for that. So this is the solution model, most on a technology or a technology architectural perspective. So with these technologies, what we deliver is to the farmers is these services: disease detection or diagnosis. What is the diseases that is being going around the plants, and how to we will be delivering services around that, and the market price prediction. Like, farmers are aware about the day-to-day prices, but they are not being equipped with what will be the price of the produce in the coming 1 to 2 months or 1 to 2 weeks, to be very specific, so that they could sell the produce at the particular and even these prices vary at different markets. In Kannur alone, there are 3 to 4 markets, local markets, and a lot of fluctuations are there. So the farmers will be getting a lot of idea around um, uh, uh, what are the markets that they have, the options that they have, and which is the best option to choose from in the coming 1 to 2 months or in the coming 1 to 2 weeks. And weather forecast is there, and the crop health analysis, like what is the thing going around the crop and soil health analysis, such as the micronutrient values in soil that could affect the crop's health, and all these things will be given in such a what simple and frugal manner to the farmers, so that they just need what they need. Like, all these services will be delivered, and even the yield that they what or the productivity margins that they have with the current scenario, with the current weather conditions, what will be the current background of the farmers, what will be the yield that he or she expects in the coming 1 month or a coming year or so. So that he could plan accordingly, and he could plan for all his operations accordingly. So these are the services that we deliver to the farmers through this framework that we have. Okay? And this is the, to be very specific, this is the primary product that we have for the farmers, that is there in the network. We'll be delivering personalized day-to-day recommendations on cost, risk, and revenue aspects of farming, which is completely personal to the farmer. Each and every farmer in the region is cultivating his own. The crop is different, crop varieties is different, the genome is different. The management practices that he or she is carrying around is completely different. The weather or microclimatic factors is completely different. So, owing to all these parameters affecting the crop and the land, the farmers will be getting the recommendations or agri advisories. You could see the price fluctuations when prices being delivered, the price prediction being there, cost analytics. So this is the what app in which the farmer sees what he need to see or what he need. So this is the primary product that we have. And for this to happen, we have a software, dedicated software, where we have dedicated access to administrators such as ourselves and government agencies, and even government officials can also carry out impact analysis of the schemes and programs that they have, and how the farmers are benefited from that. So all these things could be taken care of. And the associated farm producer organizations wherein these farmers are members. So they can also track and they can also do all those things. So this is the other product that we have. And this is the product that we developed and in the initial days and currently it is evolving, which is currently in the R&D phase. The focus area is precision agriculture. The pain point is like the farmers, we will be bridging the solution to the complete solution package that we deliver to the farmers. So the farmers is facing a lot of difficulty on unscientific investment on crop protection and management measures, which leads to reduction in quality of produce and diminishing yield. So for that problem, what we have identified is a solution or a completely autonomous four-legged quadruped robot that could, with cutting edge, especially AI depth cameras, to remotely monitor the crop health along with detection and prediction of diseases. So we have dedicated algorithms and recommendation engines to give, or the software thing to give recommendations, or the detection, diagnosis, and prediction of diseases. This will be integrated to the quadruped robot that we have. And this robot is the technology enthusiasts in the group will be knowing that this is the design is completely inspired from the Boston Dynamics spot that they developed at MIT. So this is the uniqueness that we are proposing with our intervention is the ability to adapt to non-uniform terrains. Currently in India, what we have is robotic rovers are there. Okay, just completely working on is having traversing on wheels or even conveyor belts. So with and what we propose and that kind of technology or that kind of designs will be applicable to only to a certain extent, such as uniform terrains, wherein the crops are uniformly grown. So for the crops that we are addressing, such as pepper, cardamom, coffee, tea, it's completely non-uniform and it's completely highly challenging terrains. So for that, we need another animal sort of aping that needs to be carried out. So that was the reason behind choosing this design and technology. And that's the major reason that we believe that our technology will be able, or our robot will be able to adapt to any agro terrain that is provided to us. So that's the first uniqueness. Second is that it is having very less land footprint. Most of the tractors and wheel is covering a lot of land area or soil area during its maneuvering or its traversement. But what we have, since it's completely related, or you could completely relate it with the dog or an animal with very less footprint, it is having a lot, and this footprint is having a lot of influence on the crop health or even the what yield and produce quality, etc. So with all these things in concern and in picture, we have developed this product and we are currently developing it. We have developed the first version that you could see for yourself here, and this is the current version that we are developing, and it's in the prototyping and R&D phase. So these are the products that we have, or that we have developed or developing with the insights and on-ground interaction that we got with the farmers. Okay. And what in our venture, what we are trying to deliver is delivering across value chain, not just solving for the as you might be, as I mentioned earlier, like there's a lot of areas or sections wherein you could have technologies to solve for. So what we at Deepflow is aiming or visioning to solve for is the complete value chain. So we start with this production. Currently, we are in the production, or we are aiming at solving for the production potential of the crops of the farmers, and thereon we will be bridging on. So that's the whole area on how we will be going about in the long run. So we will be delivering our products and services across the value chain, from seeds to market. So initially, we'll be reaching out to farmers, to the farmer producer organizations, and we will be connecting with our intervention. We'll be connecting to the government, every government institutions that is there, and with these people, we'll also be connecting with the farmers and the farmer producer organization to the domestic buyers and exporters. So that's the reason I'm saying that we are delivering across the value chain. And currently, we will be focusing on production, and then the later, I mean, in 6 to 7 months or so, we'll be moving up. We'll be bridging the buying segment as well. I mean, the agri output segment, wherein we'll be connecting the farmers and the consumers. So we are determined to solve across the value chain in agriculture. And as I mentioned, we are solving for the Indian farmer. We are not solving for we are not looking at global scenarios. So and it has been a conscious decision, because you might be noticing that during this explanations regarding the solution model and how we are delivering to the farmers, we have a service engine with us. It's not a product and the farmer buys it and he gets the service out of that product, gets the insights from the product, what he needs. We have a service engine with us, which is working hand in hand with the product team or with the product engine, and we'll be delivering the services. So that's the reason I put across this slide, that we are currently and we will be solving for the Indian farmers, wherein the service thing is very, very crucial. crucial to an area wherein, crucial to an extent wherein the farmer will only pay when he sees us on a what regular basis. It's not a what scenario wherein you could have noticed, and if you're following agri-tech globally, that if you have a thing that is there on the farm, and there is no interaction, only virtual interaction is there. So that kind of technology is been carried out in agriculture in Europe, in US, and all in every other geography apart from India or even India and Africa. So this service thing is what makes us unique among the other players that we have in the market. So you could see for yourself, we are not, and during our interactions with farmers, one of you have asked a question earlier during the introduction that at what extent does the farmer need or should we get on ground? So the extent is 100%. Like if you want to know what the farmer needs and if you want to deliver those services that the farmer needs, you need to get on ground. And you need to get that service thing going across in the long run. Not only during not only during the initial interaction, introducing the product and all. In the long run, going along, you need this service engine going. So that's the reason I'm sharing that you need to solve, since you need to solve for the Indian farmer, you need to get that service thing going at any cost. So that's the reason, or that's the what learning or experience that we got during the interactions, ongoing interactions, and how we can deliver our product in a much efficient manner. So that's the learning with that. And these were the milestones. I'm just putting it across for your knowledge. Like these are the milestones that we have right now. Like we are among the top 25 agtech startups in the country to be featured in Cisco Agri Challenge, organized by Cisco, Government of India, and Nudge Center for Social Innovation. And for the particular technology that I mentioned, the robot, we have won the Agri India Hackathon, organized by Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India, and that was the reason behind us getting prototyping and funding support from Indian Agricultural Research Institute. And for the satellite images and all these data, we have collaborated with Earth Observing System Data Analytics in US. They are providing us a satellite data, and currently we are also in talks with Cisco, providing us the agriculture data for free. And we are currently incubated at IIM Bangalore, and IIM Bangalore is providing us all the ample mentoring support that needs to be there in order to move forward. And ultimately, what we need, or the basic understanding with and with the experience that we had in the past 2 to 3 years, it's like the focus should always be solving for agriculture, irrespective of the technology use. So that's the main reason I also mentioned earlier that you should not explain the technology to the farmer. The farmer is not bothered about or don't want the explanation of what the technology is. The farmer just wants how can he improve his revenue aspects and how can he produce high quality crop producers. So that's the only reason. And if he or she or if the farmer invests an amount in his farm, how can he get a better earning, better returns, irrespective of the technology or the services that is provided to him. So what ultimately the farmer needs is how can he improve the revenue aspects. So for that, what we as the enablers, technology enablers or solution providers need to do is delivering technology with respect to, or delivering solutions with respect to the technology. We might be doing deep technology at one end, we might be doing another low technology at the other end. You should not be tech savvy in terms of solving for the farmers. You should always be completely smart in terms of how to solve for that. So with that, I come to an end regarding how this is what I have with me and what we do at Deepflow. I think you have got a bit of idea about how we are solving, what are technologies that is being used. You might be also noticing that I just mentioned, I just had very little mentioning about the technology aspects that we use. So that is itself speaks for the need or necessity of technology in solving for the farmers. Like you just need the technology as a leveraging factor or a leveraging or a lever. Okay. And all other areas, technology should always take a backstage when you are solving for the farmers. It's always about the knowing the need and pain point or the root cause to solve for, and what triggers the need, and it can be leveraged with the technology in hand. So that's it. So if you have any questions, you could ask right now. I'm very much open to questions you may have now. Yeah. Okay, to that, Ravi Joseph has asked, like, although there are a lot, like, for that question, let me be honest, like, when you are taking the case of progressive agri-tech startups, progressive in the sense, like, they won't be telling, they'll also be telling scientific facts or scientific deliverables will also always be their saying. They won't tell that be organic and all. If you notice, and you could Google, if you notice, most of the agri-tech startups, like 95 to 98% of them, they won't tell organic, go organic. So that's the area that you could catch. And it's my opinion, the opinion that I have framed with the knowledge that I've gained through the agriculture scientists, the farmers, and other stakeholders in the industry supporting it. So there are two kind of people who are telling that you should go organic, and people who are telling that you should go scientific. So go scientific, and these things won't be there. And perfect example, I think I could share that article. Like um, organic and scientific. Going organic is like not at all using. That's what they say. Not at all using chemical fertilizers or pesticide or insecticide on the farmland or for the crops. So that was being carried out. Complete organic project or complete organic policy was carried out in Sri Lanka in 5 to 6 years or so in the past. And they are the agriculture system, the economy, complete thing has been disrupted due to blindly following the organic model. So if you notice people selling that go organic, and if you notice startups or companies telling that go organic, be very very careful in approaching them or even what recommending them for the farmers. Like they will or it's a wrong notion or a what to say completely fox notion telling that going organic will solve for the farmers. So that's the basic reason that you ask, like nutrition value. So you need to apply certain sets of insecticide and pesticide in certain preferred or recommended amount on the farm. There is no denying that. So that is why effective implementation or application of fertilizers, irrespective of what, be it insecticide or pesticide or organic. Organic is there, but you need to supplement for the micronutrient and other deficiencies in the farm. So most of the progressive agri-tech startups and most of the agri-tech startups will always follow the scientific thing that we are also following. Developing SOPs, standard operating protocols for each crop in each region, and solving for that. Knowing the necessity of factors, the inputs or the management practices that need to be carried out with respect to the farmer, with respect to the crop, with respect to the land, and with respect to the market. So all these things need to be taken care of. And likewise, so all these people, progressive agri-tech startups like us, is following this, not the thing that I mentioned, like the organic sort of thing. So following that notion to my perspective or from my end is like misleading, and that might affect the complete biodiversity in the farm area as well as the region to a greater extent negatively. So that might be the reason you might be hearing the claims regarding the the losses, the necessity or the deficiencies not solving for the micronutrients, etc. Hope Ravi, I answered your question. Okay. We have got another hour or so to have this thing. Like there are a lot of things that need to be discussed, but like I have also been in your position hearing a lot of lectures and sessions and all. So to be very honest, you might be getting or absorbing only 10 to 20% what I've shared. So I'm not in any position to share more such details or bombarding you with more such facts and information that we have. So that's why I'm keeping it very simple. Okay. How hard it's to convince investors when we see numbers are coming? That's too very every year, and investors genuinely understood. Yeah, agri is a field wherein you know like it will take a lot of time to reap benefits from the segment that we have chosen, like agri-tech, and especially the crops that we have chosen, like pepper, cardamom, coffee, tea. All these crops are perennial or annual crops. So, in order to see the benefits of the intervention that we made with our technology, it will take a lot of times. The piloting period for our venture will be like 1 to 2 years, apart from other ventures in fruits and vegetables or in cereals. They might be getting results in say 3 to 4 months. So it hasn't, the journey hasn't been very smooth and all. It has been very, very challenging. But we all enjoy lots of challenges. That's why we are in this segment. So investment, like we have raised, of course, we have raised investments from private, like not so high investments. Say investments in the range that our venture could be valued at say 2 to 3 crores post the money valuation. So, and the investments were raised in the past 2 to 3 months. Like we have raised our investments starting in August. Currently, today also we were in talks with a lot of investors in doing that. And what these investors look is like, uh, if you are having or if you are talking with an investor who's having a little bit of background on how this agriculture thing is going, it's much easier to convince regarding our vision and other things. But you have got an investor or a person with a little bit to know agriculture exposure. It's very, very challenging, and it's my advice to people in this area to not to raise. We have to be very choosy in terms of investors. See, investors and us is like a greater being in a relationship. That's a perfect analogy that I could give you. Like in a relationship, you should be able to find out the right right connect. Okay, so likewise, you need to choose the investors. So right now we are in the pre-revenue stages. To be very honest, we haven't generated any revenue of so. So you could imagine. So without generating any revenue, we have raised what we have raised right now. So and money hasn't been very much or flowing with our, like. Although we have been fortunate to be in the ecosystem that we have, money, it will take a lot of time for money to be in picture. So it's very. I'm not telling that it's hard. It's very challenging. If it's hard, we won't be here. Like it's challenging to raise money, especially convince investors. It's more challenging to convince farmers, not just investors. It's much more challenging to convince the farmers. As I mentioned, being in the crop segment that we are in, and all these people, like if you are in the business, be it you or me, you need to see the change that we are telling or sharing. Without seeing, they won't pay. So that's the simple logic. So it is a hard journey. It's a challenging journey in terms of much more challenging in terms of farmers. So and other part was like communication. So that has to do with communication with investors has to do with choosing the investor. So as investor chooses us, we should we are also to choose the investors also. So you need to get the right connect. You need to go whether he has invested what and all he has invested in the past months, or what are the ventures and how he go about how he or she went about that. So everything need to be taken care of in the earlier stages before even pitching or presenting to the investor. So communication gap won't be there to an extent. So that's where and that's the role of incubators and accelerators in the venture. See, we people, like most of us, will always speak in a technology language, which laymen won't understand. So that's the point. So what we need to do is we need to be in the customer's shoe, be it farmers or any other customers, or the customers that we are solving for, and should speak their language. So that was the hard part for me also. I'm not telling that I'm a great convincer in terms of I developed that skill to convince the farmers or people, or the farmers or the people who we are solving for. So it took a lot of effort and it took a lot of practice, supported by and mentored, and so that's the first executive education that we got from IIM Bangalore. They told us how to communicate uh, with irrespective of customers, irrespective of farmers and other customers. So that's wherein these incubators, we or incubators such as Kerala Startup Mission. Startup Mission is having another incubators in Cochin. And since we chose IIM was a conscious decision since it's top management institute in the country, and they are also the Cisco Agri Challenge is also their initiative. Like they are a emotional partner in that. So these learnings and these trainings has helped us a lot to improve our communication skills in communicating with not just the investors, the farmers as well. Investors is there, but that's the area. So that's the thing that we've got worked around in order to do that. Okay, I think Ravi is alone asking questions.
So
Nobody.
one doubt,
Okay.
like we being engineers, like if we ever have an idea related to agriculture,
Mhm.
how to take forward, how to take it forward, like what is the first step that we need to do?
First step you need to do is talk with the farmers.
Okay,
That's the first
understand the
step.
problem.
Exactly, absolutely. Because that will. You have you heard about the thing named fail fast and succeed later? You should fail fast. So if you have an idea, you should first know whether it is valuable or whether somebody should pay for that idea, or whether the beneficiary is having any benefit out of that. The beneficiary that you intend to solve for is having whether it is actually giving him any benefits also. So the best method or best thing to do if you have an idea is talk to people. If you are very hesitant to talk to the customers at first, talk to people. Talk to people who will say to you, who will what give you very honest feedbacks in the sense, irrespective of your relationship or your what emotional attachment, you need to get that honest feedback. Then only you will be able to know whether it's a pain point to solve for or what solution to do also. And you should always not in the start only. You should always communicate with the customers or even people regarding your product. Initially we all will have a notion or a thought that our idea can be replicated by if we share our idea to people or to public, it can be replicated, it will be stolen. But the thing that you need to know, my friend, is like idea is just 2 to 3%. The other 98% is about implementation. So if at all somebody or other copies your idea, if you still have the team and the implementation thing to do, or the caliber to pull it off, there's no issue in sharing those things publicly. These things obviously happened with me also. Like, we were also very hesitant in sharing our idea with even with farmers and even with fellow mentors also, who could help and guide us. So later on we identified that idea is very what idea is not a thing. Idea is not a thing as far as success is concerned or solving for the customers is concerned. Ideas one is just 2 to 3%. Other all things come around how we implement and how we deliver that idea to the farmers, or to the consumers or the customers who we are solving for. So at first you have to speak, you have to know the opinion or feedback of public, or and then customers, and then pivot. I'm not telling that this is our final pivot or this will be a final product. Our final product might be something completely different, and we are completely open for that. We are not sticking around. This is our product. We'll only be delivering it to the like this will be only a product which will be delivered to the farmers. We are continuously pivoting, and that's all the companies presently in any segment does. Completely pivots and what the customers need, what the farmers need. Then only you will be, and for all these things, money should be there. There is no other right method of getting money rather than customers paying us, not just the investors. You might be, if you are following startups, you might be daily noticing regarding these startups raised X amount of money for this much equity. That are all nice to hear, but ultimately we are borrowing money, right, for a certain percent of equity. The right amount of money should always come from the end customers who we are solving for. And to that note, I'll also add one more thing. You should also be noticing. You should also be knowing that there are two types of products, or there are two types of mentalities. One is the product. If it's a product can buy, the farmers or the people or the consumers, okay, it's okay to buy that product. That's one mentality to have. The other mentality is like it's a necessity to buy that product. If that product didn't exist or don't exist, if we don't buy the product, our needs won't, or our what necessities won't meet. So these two attitudes, or these two perspectives are there, and should always be there in the second perspective. You should not you should what myself and others in the segment, or what I received as a mentoring is like, you should not easy to have products won't sustain in the long run. The product that fulfills the actual necessity, solve for the actual problem or pain point, will survive and will sustain in the long run. I hope I answered the question, right?
Yes, sir. That
Okay,
is really insightful.
okay, cool. Any other questions? Like the topic is adoption of new technologies and things for agriculture. Okay, that's much more specific question. Career opportunities at Deepflow. So we are a team of 11 people, like 11 full-time, including me. We are 11 full-time employees are there in the company, and there are around 20 to 30 interns from basically from our college, GC Kannur, and from colleges such as TKM and CET. And we are also trying to get interns from NIT and other colleges as well. So there are a lot of career opportunities in terms of internships, not as far as complete employment or full-time employment is concerned. We are very, very choosy in terms of people, since we are very, very much limited on the funds we have with us. So we have internship programs running in our network, wherein we will be we will not be charging any penny. It's completely a paid internship. You will be paid at the end of the program. You will be paid a particular stipend, and for your contributions and for your involvement in the company. And the functions varies across different domains, such as we have we have an app development team, we have a software development team, we have a machine learning team, deep technology team, we have a robotics team, and we also have operations team working on sales and marketing apart from technology, and we also have an R&D team with us. So these people, or the internship program is intended for the second years or third years, especially in BTech courses, to get an exposure for them in deep technology projects in service, what journey, and for us, we'll be delivering our real-time projects to them, so that both our end will also be met. So that's the internship program. And currently we have started the program way back in 2020 with students from various backgrounds in what say GC Kannur, and we have handpicked 2 to 3 people from CET and DKM, and we are like we haven't what officialized the internship programs, which will be coming in 1 to 2 months. But there are a lot of internship programs in our venture wherein you could work with us completely free. You will be intern paid. So that's the thing, which is quite different from what else is provided in the industry, right? So that's the career opportunity in DeepFlow. And yeah, Ravi, is that okay? Okay.
Guys, if you have any more doubt, feel free to ask it right now.
It was more of, apart from these 2 people, it was more of monotonous interaction, like myself explaining these things, yours. Like I could understand, I could empathize. Like I have been there in your position as well, hearing these lots of lectures. But feel free to ask questions. I'm just 2 to 3 years older to you, so you could ask questions and all. Not at all a problem. And these are the platforms wherein you could ask without any about hesitations and all. Like any questions? About 11 people, right? Yeah. A bit disappointed on a note that only 2 to 3 people have asked. Anyways, I hope what you intended to get from this session, you have got at least 20 to 30% of what I said. And if you want to, if you want to reach out to me or you could contact me on this number. Queries or anything related to what I talked, or even what I could explain.
So, sir, thank you so much for this wonderful, really insightful session. And truly speaking, like personally also, and from my talking from everybody's perspective, like we got to learn a lot of stuff. Like even got to learn a lot of stuff that we even did not know existed. So that was good, insightful, and we never know like such a intricate detail, such hard process was behind a simple like. And from the outside perspective, it might simply seem like agricultural satellite. We as students never knew like there was such hard work and such deep research and stuff is needed to do this. That was really insightful. And personally, from my side and from every side, I am thanking you so much sir, for this wonderful session. And thank you everyone for attending this wonderful session also.
Yeah,
So
thank
like
you. It's been a pleasure.
so like Sir has put his number and email in the chat. So if anybody wants to contact, feel free. So
Okay. So
we
thank
can
you.
wind up, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all.
Wasn't recording.